Hello and welcome to The Week in Golf. I'm Rod Morrie. Episode 4 of The Week in Golf comes to you from the RACV Royal Pines Resort here on the Gold Coast, where today Greg Chalmers won the Australian PGA Championship in what can only be described as a thriller. After play wrapped up for the day, I sat down with iSeekGolf.com analyst Bruce Young to get his thoughts on a compelling week of golf. Well, the final round of the Australian PGA Championship here at Royal Pines had absolutely everything. To be honest, I don't know where to start, so I won't. I'll come to iSeekGolf.com analyst Bruce Young. And Bruce, we haven't seen a day's golf like that, I can't recall, in Australia, possibly ever.
Well, in terms of statistics, it's the longest playoff ever on the PGA Tour of Australasia. Greg Chalmers also might not have known today where to start, but he certainly knew where and how to finish. A final round of 64, and then to find a way to win that playoff after missing the fairway on 6 of 7 occasions. That was something very special, Rod.
Yeah, look, you couldn't find two more disparate players. Adam Scott has the game that everybody wants, the amazing golf swing, incredible ball striking ability. Greg Chalmers just does not give up. Probably for most of us, Greg Chalmers is the one you could learn most from. We can't do what Adam Scott does, but you can learn a lot from the way Greg Chalmers goes about his business.
You're spot on there. Very, very few players can play the way Adam Scott does, but Greg Chalmers is a guy that really just goes about his business and just finds a way to get the job done. Today's final round of 64 was the best by 4 shots on a very demanding final day. It was very windy for much of the day, and he talked about the golf course getting more and more difficult throughout the course of the weekend, but the more difficulty it got. It's a bit like at the Australian Open a couple of weeks ago. You get the feeling, because he finished 4th here, you get the feeling that the more demanding and more difficult golf courses get, the better Greg Chalmers gets.
My style of golf is never going to be an Adam Scott style of golf. I hit it offline, I don't panic. I'm going to hit it offline. I did it all week and I did it sometimes today. But I have a short game that I hold in pretty decent regard, and I thought just keep making someone win it. And today it turns out that a mistake was made and I'm holding the trophy.
Chalmers, this is his second PGA win, goes with 2 Australian Open titles. He's starting to climb into some pretty elite company in Australia. He's getting into the Lonard sort of range, isn't he?
Well, over the last 15 years or so, in terms of prolific tournament winners here in Australia, probably Peter Lonard, Robert Allenby, and now Greg Chalmers, because not only has he won 2 Australian Opens and now 2 Australian PGA Championships, he also won the Players' Championship back in the late 1990s at Royal Queensland. So whilst he hasn't won in the United States, he's won $9 million there in career earnings. He hasn't won there, he's been runner-up twice. He's developing this very nice portfolio of victories here in Australia and significant titles at that.
And you would go a long way to meet a nicer and more down-to-earth bloke.
Oh, absolutely, and we saw it today in the press conference afterwards. He's very humble, very much aware of the impact the loss might have had on Adam Scott and Wade Ormsby, and felt for them in his own way, but I'm sure deep down he was very happy with the victory.
Yeah, exactly. All 3 of them wanted to win. There's no question about that. There can only be one winner. Bruce, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Adam Scott's putting.
Well, it is becoming a bit of an issue once again. We thought he had solved it to some extent when he turned to the long putter towards the end of 2010, early 2011, and he's developed a great level of consistency. There's no doubt about it. He's one of the great ball strikers of all, perhaps even of all time in the game. His driving is phenomenal, but so frustrating. I don't know how he continues to cope with this regularly missing opportunities that he creates. And until he starts converting those opportunities, or at least a reasonable percentage of them, he's never going to win the titles that he deserves to win with the quality of his ball striking. It is a concern. I don't know where he goes with it, but I'm sure deep down he probably continues to analyse if and when he may go back to the short putter.
102 putts for Greg Chalmers over the course of the week, playoff aside, first in the field. 125 putts for Adam Scott, playoff aside. You can't spot, I know that greens in regulation statistics do skew those numbers. You cannot spot the field that many shots, can you? And still expect to win.
No, of course you can't. I mean, as you said, those statistics are sometimes a little skewed by the amount of opportunities that Adam Scott gives himself, therefore gives the perception that he's perhaps missing more putts than others because they aren't always getting those same opportunities, if you know what I mean, Rod. But it is something he has to address, I'm sure. It'd be a nice problem to have for most of us because the quality of his ball striking is unbelievable. Yeah. But, this game is all about having an all-round game. You can talk forever about how well you played, but you putted badly, but that doesn't make any sense. To have success at the highest level of this game, on a consistent, regular basis, you have to have all departments on song. The one department that's not working for Adam Scott is the putting.
Not to be harsh and not to labour the point, Bruce, you might expect that with that sort of performance, Adam Scott can be in the mix here in Australia. That's not going to cut it in majors and the US Tour. If he had a week like that on the US Tour, it'd be a surprise if he found himself in a playoff at the end of the week.
Oh, that's exactly right. He has played very well here, down here in Australia, runner-up at the Masters. I think he was 5th at the Australian Open and now a near miss again here. But the expectations on him are so high now. We expect him to contend and potentially win every time he tees it up in Australia. And he'll go away from this stretch of 3 tournaments down here, I think, with mixed emotions, perhaps disappointed in many respects that he wasn't able to secure at least one win.
No doubt, Bruce. The third player in this, who almost became forgotten, Wade Ormsby was part of it for the first 3 holes. I thought he had a terrific week in that he stood up under pressure both Saturday and Sunday to get himself into that playoff.
He did. I think, he's not all that well known down here, as we've discussed this week, and he's come off the back of such a great year in Europe by his standards, because he struggled in Europe up until this year. But he didn't play well at the Australian Open. I think it was all the travelling that was going on, getting back from playing in Dubai to the Australian Open. We felt when he made such a great start that maybe it might eventually catch up on him, but he hung in there and actually birdied the last to get himself into a playoff. So I thought perhaps it was a great performance by him in many respects, because it alerted the Australian public to what a good player he could potentially become.
And I think Wade Ormsby himself, I think the whole year he's had to finish on this note, next year he will start a different player to what we've seen.
Very true.
There's 2 bombs on that 18th green. As much as Adam Scott doesn't like the 18th green, I think Wade Ormsby will probably take a piece of it home with him. Dozen other storylines, Bruce. We haven't got time to go into them all, except to say the tournament has been cemented here at Royal Pines for the next 3 years, which is a huge bonus. If it produces finishes like this, that will be fantastic. Yeah, and what a fitting end that was to what's been a particularly exciting summer of golf. Well, the final pair in today's Australian PGA Championship took about 4 hours to play their last 18 holes. They amassed 147 strokes, and that's pretty standard for professional golf. But it wouldn't cut it with these players. You watch the pros on telly, you'd think there's no such thing as a quick 18. But there is, and these guys are going to show you how. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Speed Golf.
I'm starting to regret the lack of preparation. I've probably not done as much running or running with golf clubs as I should have done, in the fact that I've done none. So seriously, it should be a lot of good fun, and just give it a crack and see how it goes.
It's going to be tough. I've heard it's about 7.5 Ks that we'll be running and playing golf, so it's going to be pretty tough this morning. Anything average, trying probably 6 over my handicap would be a great score, and running maybe under 50 minutes for the whole course. Carry 6, so I've got a 5-wood, 5-iron, 7-iron, 9-iron, sandwich and the putter.
A few years back I got into running, so did some distance running, some marathons and some things like that. And I've always played golf, although trying to get back into it a little bit more seriously now. So yeah, hoping that you combine the two and it somehow manages to work today.
What are your expectations? I know you've practiced this with Mitch at your home club at Wentworth in Orange. What are your expectations today, having already practiced there? How do you feel about the course here at Beagle?
Yeah, it was a good course, but yeah, sort of not high expectations, just more having fun and just seeing how it goes.
And of course it's exciting, Carrie, because this is the first one, isn't it? I mean, you're kind of part of a groundbreaking thing. It's the first Speed Golf Championship in Australia. It must be exciting for you.
Yeah, exciting but nervous.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm going to try and pace myself for the first few holes. I assume try and take a little bit of time over a shot, but then quick between the ball.
How do you feel? That's quite the achievement.
Yeah, that was tough. That hill coming up to 18 as well, that pretty much takes it out of you, but it was all round, it's a hilly course. It was a lot of fun. I had a great time out there, but yeah, I'm feeling it. The hands were shaking on the back nine a little bit, the arms were starting to go a little bit like jelly, so it was, there's a few tired swings out there, but I got it round eventually. Yeah. I think you can play a lot better than you would imagine playing quick. I think the taking time over the shots isn't really as important as for most amateurs as we probably think it is.
You know, to have such good quality players turn up at this event and be part of it, it's really good. And Federal Golf Club too, to be putting on the first event here. It's a really beautiful course and challenging for the players, but they handled it really well. I mean, I was following Mitch Williamson and I could hardly keep up with him in the cart, like it was ridiculous. Yeah.
Mitch Williamson, congratulations. You've actually won it. You are now officially the Australian Speed Golf Champion after the first round today. You got the nice trophy to show it there. Congratulations. Just a few thoughts about the first competition. There was 6 players. I think you were the only one who played off the very back tees. You were in the elite division. Terrific time. Probably not the score you were hoping for golf-wise. I get the sense there's probably room for improvement there for you.
Yeah, definitely. I ran as hard as I could out there today. I was pretty exhausted, but yeah, my golf tee to green was pretty good. Not great, but pretty good, and just short game was pretty ordinary. But it's first major comp I've ever been in.
4 clubs themselves, one would imagine, with lots of empty tee times at lots of clubs around the place, looking for ways that people can use the course. Can you see a time when perhaps some clubs do set aside times for speed golf?
It's a little bit hard during the day, but certainly at first light or at the end of the day. I mean, you know, you only need half an hour for 9 holes.
I don't know about you, but I'm puffing just from watching that, and full respect to iSetGolf.com General Manager John Perkins. That was a fabulous effort at the Federal Golf Club. Well, we saw Adam Scott come oh so close again today here at Royal Pines in the Australian PGA Championship, but despite that disappointment, it's been a pretty good year for the world number 3. Earlier this month, he sat down with the team from Golfing World to reflect on the 2014 season.
Despite not winning the Australian Open, it's been another defining year in the career of Adam Scott. After winning his maiden major in 2013, the Australian entered this season as the closest challenger to Tiger Woods for the world number 1 spot. With 3 top 10 finishes in his opening 7 events, he became only the 17th player to reach top spot since the rankings began back in 1986.
It's been a childhood dream to be number 1, so to achieve that is an incredible feeling. It was so far out of reach for such a long time in my career. It almost, got put on the bench for a while, and there were other things that I needed to achieve to even think about getting to that number 1 position. So I've got a taste for it, and I'm pretty keen to kind of nip at Rory's heels a little bit and not let him get too far away.
Rory's been the number 1 player in the world for much of the year, but Scott feels several players are ready to battle it out for top spot in 2015.
It's easy to kind of gauge where Rory's at the moment. He's played sensational golf over the summer. And it's important, it's relevant to know what your competitors are up to as best you can. And I'm sure he's not trying to give too much away, but I think we're all looking forward to getting into next year, and he's got to be so fired up to get to Augusta. I certainly am, and I think a few other guys, probably Sergio as well. He's played such a solid summer of golf and a good solid year. He's got to be thinking it's his time to start, making all his dreams come true on the golf course. 2014 has been a pretty solid season. I feel I've played a lot of good golf, just not 4 days in a row often enough. And that's really the key. You want to be able to string a few weeks a year together where you're playing 4 solid days in a row, and maybe something's just been slightly off. But there's been a lot of solid golf. I wished I took advantage of a couple more opportunities to win this year, but it's always a work in progress.
Life off the course has been a key ingredient to the 34-year-old's recent success after his marriage in the Bahamas back in March.
balancing everything, you know, just takes some time and some thought, and it's extremely important because one can affect the other drastically. I'm sure my wife likes me playing good golf because I come home in a much better mood, so there's got to be some understanding and some advice given to me by Greg Norman and other people early on in my career that I probably didn't pay much attention to when I was 20 years old, because you're not thinking about it, but time management is just so important, and being very efficient with your time, whether it's practicing, playing, setting your schedule to allow yourself the time away from the golf course as well, and to be able to enjoy it, because you need to have that nice balance in your life, and it's different for different people, but managing your time is the hardest thing, I think, while you're out here.
Adam has been a professional for 14 years now and has won some of the biggest titles in the game, but he's always had lofty ambitions, and they very much remain.
I've had a good career for sure, but it's not the complete career that I dreamt of yet. I think I dreamt of more as a kid, and I think that's all that I need to motivate me to go further. If I look back at what I thought about when I was playing golf as a junior, or even playing golf up and down the street with a plastic golf ball, you know, I dreamt of winning lots of majors, being the greatest Australian golfer there is, and you know, I think I need to add a few more things under the resume before I can even get close to that.
And that wraps up episode 4 of The Week in Golf. We hope you've enjoyed our coverage of the Australian Summer of Golf, and we'll be back to do it all again in 2015.